Alright, hello there, and welcome back to our game design playthrough of Portal. We're going to continue where we left off. Ha, I did not say continue off where we left off this time. In this sort of the escape sequence. We're about, like, I don't know, a third of the way through it? I'm not quite sure. You probably saw me place these portals back here that look a bit suspicious. If you've actually played through this segment, you know that right here where I'm standing is a load sequence, which is why I very conveniently chose to cut my video there. There's a sort of brief load thing. And once the game is loaded, you can continue on. It takes like 3 to 4 seconds. I've already talked about the load screens and why I like these ones, even though that's a little intrusive. I like it better than the ones in Portal 2, which are very intrusive. But I just from a game programming point of view, this is I always found this kind of interesting. I do a lot of programming as well. I actually primarily do programming. I sort of do game design on the side, and or think about game design and talk about it really loudly on the side. And I just found this really interesting because, I mean, the whole point of that loading is that it can unload all the previous stuff and load up the next stuff because it can only keep so much stuff in memory at the same time. And so you can sort of see this if you drop down here and look back at where you came from. You can see this sort of weird blue haze. It wasn't like that. It was this red thing and there were pipes and stuff back there, but it's just this blue haze because there's nothing there anymore. It's been unloaded. That, in the game world that is loaded into memory, that's not there anymore. It's been removed after that loading screen came up that you actually never saw. They unloaded that, so it's not there anymore, and loaded up the stuff afterwards, which I find very interesting. It's just interesting to actually see an effect of that. But they have to pick the points where they do this very, very effectively, because there's no way, once you get through this little puzzle here, there's no way to go back, and it's set up like that. And that they may have set it up specifically to make a load point. They may have just said, oh, since we're doing this puzzle here and by coincidence you can't go back, let's put a load point here. It was one of those two. But anyways, it works as a nice point where once you've gone through it, you can't go back, and so it's a convenient place to say, hey, while you're here, just take a couple seconds, let's unload everything back behind you, and that way we have a legitimate reason that if you try and backtrack, you can't. And therefore we don't have to worry about you backtracking into an environment that we've unloaded. Anyways, onwards. There's some viewpoints you can go to up there, but I won't bother with those. Alright, this. So if you've played the game, the developer commentary, you'll know the sort of background behind the ladders and stuff in this chamber, which I find absolutely fascinating. These ladders are here to draw your attention up. I mean, where you need to go in this chamber is up there, into that little sort of hole thing. But it's kind of difficult to just normally, in this, pretend the ladder's not there. It's kind of difficult to see that that's where you need to go. Like, it doesn't look all that different from this sort of pipey area over here. It's the same colors, and like, it's hard to see all these areas and know exactly where you're supposed to go, and are you supposed to go there, and all this stuff. It's kind of hard to see. And on top of it, it's up. And apparently developers, while they were doing playtesting, they found that players, when they played through the game, or any game, it was very rare that without some serious prompting, they ever looked up. They almost never looked up, unless there was something to look at. And so that's what they added these ladders for, because players would come into this room and they would see these big pipes and whatever, and they'd sort of maybe casually look around, but they would never look up and go, oh, there. They just wouldn't see it, because they never looked up. So they added these ladders, and these ladders draw your attention upwards. They're at ground level, and you see it, and then you naturally just follow where the ladder goes, and you see, oh, it goes up there. It also provides sort of like a justification for going up there. Not a justification, but another hint, because in your mind you think, okay, ladders usually go somewhere, and if there's a ladder going up there, that's probably somewhere that I can or should go, therefore let's try going there, see if I can get there. And sure enough, that is in fact what you have to do. So it provides a sort of like justification, justification's the wrong word, sort of a prompt for the player to go there. This one does not hit the top. That's cool. So in case you haven't noticed already, I might have pointed this out, you can see the little sort of crack marks where for the pancake cylinders, that's what I'm going to call them from now on, the pancake cylinders, since GLaDOS didn't give these a name, that hit the roof and will crush you. And there's a very clear mark set up so that you can see the ones that do this leave this mark. And that's, again, it aesthetically makes sense. It looks kind of neat. And it provides a hint for the player. They don't have to wait to see if it goes all the way up to know whether or not, if they got on this, it will crush them against the roof. And the player doesn't have to, because sometimes if you're down there looking up, it's at really weird angles, and it's kind of hard to tell which platforms are hitting the roof and which ones aren't, because they're all at weird angles and they're kind of far away. And so these crushing marks provide a clear visual cue that say, all right, these ones, they hit the roof. If you're going to stand on them, be careful, because otherwise you're going to get crushed. And I think we actually see that up here a little bit. Ah, yes, right here. So these ones, you have to go into one that you can very clearly see the crush marks. You have to go into one that will crush you if you don't put a portal there, and that's what you need to realize. You need to realize, oh wait, I can put a portal there, and it sort of crushes me through, not crushes you through, but pushes me through the portal. We've done a portal into a roof and out of somewhere before. We actually did it at the very end of the last video, but we haven't done it quite like this before, and we haven't done it where it pushes you all the way through. We've done it where you just sort of stand up through the portal. So anyways, where do I need to go? I actually haven't pre-played this section, so I apologize in advance if I'm going to be a little slow playing this through. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Thankfully I did not get crushed. Oh yeah, I can as you're going up you can just replace the portal if you need something. Alright, is this going to drop? No, it's okay, cool. You notice the reflections there are obviously pre-baked, not changing. They're just a static image that changes depending on the angle you look at it. Because rendering real-time reflections is incredibly computationally expensive. Some games can pull it off, some games do it, but they usually only do it in very isolated circumstances because it's difficult to do. It takes a lot of, well, not difficult, it is computationally expensive. And so I already said that, I'm sounding redundant. It's difficult to do without dropping the frame rate drastically. Alright, more hints as to where I should go. Again, with the... no, I actually already mentioned that, so I'm not going to really talk about it again. But with the cluttered design, having those hints makes a little bit more sense, because it can be difficult otherwise. Oh, I think I have to double fling this. Ah, yes. It's all coming back. Oh, whoa. Maybe I wasn't so... Oh, up there. I was supposed to do it over there. Now, are they going to let me over? Yeah, they are. Okay, cool. Alright, it's just... yeah. My enunciation is not the greatest. Enunciation is not the greatest. This is sort of an expansion of the... If you remember the propeller thing at the near the very beginning of the escape sequence, it's just sort of an expansion of that. Same with this. It's just... Oh, it's just sort of timing it. Alright. More of these. They're basically just going through some of the different variations and things that you can do with this sort of pipes, which are basically, they're not taught as a new mechanic or element of the game in the same way like the cube was in the test chambers or the pellets or whatever. But this is ultimately a new element in the game that you have to learn about and that they explore. They look at the different setups you can have, some of the different things you can do, how they can push you through a wall, how they can go up and down, how they can go left and right, how they can open up and let you drop down, how they can close, how you have to time them, how you can look through portals to try and time them. They're basically just exploring all of that stuff through here. And I mean, you've been watching this long enough now. I don't need to explicitly say what each one is teaching you, but you're sort of just learning stuff. All the different ways you can do things. I think... Oh, that was not the correct solution. Alright. I'll pass on that offer to go back to the testing area. You notice also that the pipes don't fully extend backwards when they retract into the wall. And this is helpful because it lets the player sort of stay on it and wait. If they retracted all the way back, the puzzles would still be doable, they'd just be way more difficult. And the player would have like one chance to get it right, or they would either drop down or get crushed. Oh, that's also not what I wanted to do. Right, let's see if I can find where I place this. Any experienced Portal players are probably writhing in agony watching me try and do this. Alright, so I don't get pushed back in. Okay. Alright, I believe I can go there and there. Do that. Let's do that there. Alright. Oh, yes, like that. Okay, cool. And that gives me enough vantage to go there. I don't know if saying enough vantage is actually like a correct term for anything, but I've been using it, so might as well. Alright. Excellent. And again, hints to tell you where you should go. This one I actually found very interesting, because, again, it's doing things that you wouldn't like, there were sort of obvious puzzles that you would design using the elements that they've decided to go with for the game, but then there were ones that aren't as obvious, like this. I talked about jumping at, like, some of the companion cube stuff, like jumping on a cube or bouncing a pellet with the cube. Then there's this one. Because the player is so used to just placing portals to get everywhere, and the platforms being very obviously defined, but in this one, there's nowhere to portal to without going into the acid. And what you need to do is just drop down onto this pipe. It almost seems... You're almost thinking, like, no, they would set it up more clearly than that. No, it feels like you're, like, breaking the game, jumping onto something that you shouldn't. But no, that's what you have to do. You just drop down here and continue along here. And I find that very interesting, and it's, again, just exploring all the things you can do with the game. Alright. I need to do this. And I believe there's nowhere I can go except to jump down like that. Ah, yes, I do remember this. And you have to do a jump into a wall there. Again, jumping into a wall, dropping to something else, combination we haven't done yet. Okay, this. So, I mean, that's these yellow stripes. If you remember what happens here, I believe you get thrown turrets down here, but I could be totally wrong. Actually, we'll find out. But anyways, this, if I'm correct, this yellow stuff here is sort of like a visual cue to prepare yourself, and it's a very distinct point. Actually, no, I don't think that's what happens here. Actually, I think there's a loading point as you drop down here. Yes, there is. Ha! I remember that. Okay. I don't know if you get the turrets yet. Let's find out. No, the turrets are later, actually, so never mind. So ignore what I said. I was wrong. I actually don't remember what this is for in here. Oh, this is just for fun and for help. That help is very, very creepily written. Ah, no, it's right here. Right here is where the turrets get dropped. Or where you get dropped and there are turrets. Now, of course, the player sees... Like, if you've played Portal 2, there's actually a very interesting point in the game where you... if you haven't played Portal 2 yet, skip ahead like 2 minutes. If you have, which surely you have if you're watching something like this. Because there's going to be... just go ahead and watch because they're going to be big spoilers, but whatever. So there's a good... You're gone if you haven't played it yet. Alright, cool. So there's basically a... Whoa. Alright, I guess that's how they... Whoa. So that's another example of them unloading the game world behind you. I mean, we just passed a loading point, so they put this nice little pipe here so that I can't go backwards now and risk seeing any of the world that's been unloaded, or not seeing the world behind me. That's really blunt. But I guess they figure players aren't going to look backwards here, so cool. Well, I proved them wrong. No, players really won't look backwards here. They'll look, they'll see that ahead, they'll just walk across and they'll drop down, as you know. So there's a very interesting segment in Portal 2 where you have to, where you walk forwards onto one of those springboard, the faith plates or whatever called, the springboard things, and you walk forward onto it expecting it to launch you forward, and it launches you sideways. And it's actually a trap that's been set up by Wheatley, la-da-da-da-da, so all this stuff happens. But what was really interesting about that, and they say it in the developer commentary for Portal 2, is that they set up a puzzle where in front of you, there's a plate that the faith plate would, where it looks like it would normally launch you over a sort of green, like, you know, like a sort of pit that you can't drop into or you die, and it would launch you over that, and there's a cube bouncing up and down in front of that pit. So it looks like you have to time your jump and bounce off the plate, grab the cube in midair, and land on the other side. That's what it looks like you have to do. But that's misdirection. The whole point of that is so that they really catch the player off guard. Because the player's going to look ahead, they're going to sort of scan ahead, look at the puzzle, and they're going to say, alright, there's this cube bouncing, okay, on the faith plate, I'm going to have to time my jump with the faith plate in order to make this work, so that I can bounce at exactly the right time. And so the player's going to look at it, they're going to time it, they're going to like watch the bounce, they're going, alright, 1, 2, 3, alright, and go, and then they get launched sideways. So it catches them totally off guard. That's part of what this is. I mean, it's not as strong. I really like how they did that in Portal 2, but in this is sort of the same principle. They could very well have not put that there. Because, I mean, that's not where you progress. They could very well have not had something in front of you there. But instead, and just had the player sort of see, oh, there are these pipes, and then walk on, and they drop down. But instead, they put something there, so the player thinks, oh, so there's something there, I'm just going to walk across. And, of course, catches them totally off guard. You can't do that, and now you have turrets. Now, you'll notice you actually have a fair bit of time to deal with this, and you get some things that you can duck under if you really need to. Again, this will have been calibrated, I assume, during playtesting. as to how long they should allow between each one so that it's challenging but not frustrating. Because, I mean, they really are catching the player off guard here. So, they do that. And you notice in the third one, that's where your escape is. And like in something like this, I can totally see a red arrow being necessary. Because, I mean, just looking up here, you wouldn't guess that this is where you need to go. So yeah, it's right there. Cool.
You're not a good person. You know that, right?
Again, ladders to draw your attention upwards to this catwalk here. Good people don't end up here. Alright. What am I missing? Why I'm missing something so... Can I just scoot across? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Oh yeah, interesting, okay. Is there another way to do that? It doesn't look like it, so you kind of have to scoot across. That's interesting. Alright. And then there's all this stuff. Or at least that's if you want to get up here. Actually, wait, did I come? No, I'm going this way. Okay, cool. Whoa. Alright. So you get some warning of the portals ahead. Oh, yeah. Oh, the turrets ahead, sorry. Oh, yes. Okay, so this is the big turret room. Alright. Is it? No, no, it isn't. Not yet. Oh, man. I really have a poor memory of this section of the game. Alright, so this is... Players are pretty used to seeing something go out like that. They know they're going to be flinging off of it. It's not that big a deal at this point for the player.
This is your fault. It didn't have to be like this. I'm not kidding now. Turn back, or I will kill you.
The big bad jellyfish.
I'm going to kill you. And all the cake is gone. You don't even care, do you?
Nope.
This is your last chance.
That's backwards, okay. So something interesting, if you've played the developer commentary, you'll know this. Oh, you can actually place portals on that. That's interesting. Something they mentioned in the commentary is that the developers found that they needed to sort of intersperse some of the more difficult puzzles where you're learning something new with simpler, just very small moments of sort of simpler puzzles, stuff that the player already knows how to do easily and can just do. And they just put it as somewhere to get from one point to another, and then they do a hard puzzle. And they found that the player would get tired if it was just hard puzzle after hard puzzle, or learning something new after learning something new, and so they felt the need to intersperse it with sort of some simpler puzzles, like this one here. This really isn't anything new. Oh no. Oh, I don't know why that happened. Anyways, it's actually a little bit of training, because if you remember, the giant turret room has a very similar setup to this, where you have a turret inside, the door opens up, and you have to use it to fling and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's sort of training for that. But, I mean, this is a simple puzzle. This is not something that should be challenging the player. And it doesn't. So that's what it's set up for. Now, I don't know where I, like, stand on this. That's the wrong way to say it. But it's interesting because as I've said multiple times, one of the strengths, in my opinion, of Portal is that every chamber, in every section of the game, in every puzzle, you're learning something new about the game mechanics, about the environment, about the things you can do with what they've set up for you. And in every puzzle, you learn something new. There are no filler puzzles in Portal. But this, what I just said, goes directly against this. It is filler, just to sort of give the player a little bit of a break. So, is that good? Is that bad? I actually don't know. I'd have to try making a game, give it to a few people, and sort of mess around more to do that. But I don't know. But if I need to, I will correct my stance to say that Portal is almost every puzzle in Portal teaches the player something new about the game mechanics. Whereas in reality, once you get to some of the later stages, they add in a couple of little filler ones just to give the player a break. But that sort of dichotomy between what they're saying and what I find one of the strengths of Portal to be is very interesting, and that is something that I should actually examine more. Oh, okay, this is really interesting. All right, so if, remember I talked about how the companion cube was training for the final boss, and euthanizing it was training for using the incinerator and all that. This is also training for the final boss, if you remember the little missile turret. I believe this is the only time you see the missile turret. I mean, this is an interesting puzzle in itself, but it's training for the final boss. I mean, for beating GLaDOS. So, you notice they give you as much time as you want to survey the scene, to see this weird bubble in the middle and an elevated pedestal, to see the button that obviously activates something there. they give you lots of time to figure it out. Lots of time to sort of, not figure it out, sorry. Once the thing starts moving, you don't have as much time. But they give you lots of time to survey the scene and see what's going on. Then you press the button, of course, because you always press buttons. And notice how the behavior of this thing works. It's very slowly moves to you. There's a very clear sound, and then it fires the missile. There's a change in the color. It's very clear what it's doing at every point. And so you'll notice something. Well, first of all, so in this, you're learning how these turrets work and what you can do with them in several separate stages, really. It's difficult to talk about it while I'm constantly being fired upon by him, but the first stage is just to see him in action and for his missile to break the glass. That's the first stage. The second stage is to realize that you can't portal anywhere here, and that you need to not just accidentally have his missile break the glass like it did there, where it was forced to. You didn't have a choice. That missile was going to break the glass. You couldn't help but have it break the glass. It's coming back to that you can't help it thing when you're learning it. So now that you know that the missile breaks the glass, they bring you here. Or you bring yourself here and you say, wait, I can use it to break the glass and move onwards. And then the third stage of this, which is the one, actually when I first played this game, it took me a long time to get this. The third stage is breaking this glass, and so it's not new that you're breaking glass, but it's new that you can move the missiles through portals. That's what the player the jump that the player needs to make here. So let's go set this up. Does that work? That should work. Yep, there we go. And then the fourth and final stage, this is the one that took me a long time, is that you can break this tube and get the cube out. And so part of this one, I actually personally think it's not quite clear that this can be broken, that there should have been some other way to indicate that, but it works pretty well. But the real I screwed it up. The real purpose of this one is to see that you can use it, you can get the missile to fire through portals, but you can then redirect it once it's locked on, because there's a small period of time between it locking onto you and the missile actually firing. And so you can use this, let's see if I can get this set up properly, to, I have a blue one there, okay, to get it to lock onto me. It locks on, and then I move it up there so that it fires and it hits that, and that breaks, and I get the cube. So those are the 4 stages of learning how the turret works. The first one, you learn that, alright, it will lock onto you slowly. Here are the different progressions of how it locks onto you, and it will break glass. The second one is I can move myself into position in order to get it to fire somewhere. The third one is I can get it to fire through portals. The fourth one is I can get it to aim at me through a portal and then move the portal so that it aims wherever I want by redirecting it by moving a portal once it's locked onto me. And that last bit is what you need in order to beat GLaDOS. You need to get it to lock onto you straight ahead, and then you move the portal up, and it fires through the portal and out the other one and hits GLaDOS. And so now you are trained in beating the boss, but you didn't even know it. And it's just so bloody genius. Again, this is basically just using the companion cube thing. You can't fire a portal in there. You have to actually use the cube to continue on. You have to actually physically jump on it, something that you don't do that much with the advent of portals. Oops, okay. And again, the idea that you might be able to put a portal somewhere where you need to go, but you have to be able to put the entry portal somewhere too, so I have to walk all the way back out and put it here. This is what I was talking about when I was saying filler puzzles. This is just sort of, it's kind of interesting to see, and you'll notice, oh, a loading point as well. You'll notice the sort of ambient sound died down a bit, and they just leave you this sort of calming, you're in a sewer, but this sort of calming, watery sound. This is very much like relaxing for, I don't know, like a minute. You notice the sort of the dull, droning, humming ambience is gone. It's just sort of this light, trickling sound. This is a break, basically. I say this is really weirdly. This is a break, basically, from the puzzles that I was talking about. Alright, let's see. Do they... so you can't go back. Or was it this one? No, it wasn't that one. So now they just replace it with a regular turbine, and that's how they stop you from going backwards here. I don't know, I like looking at the internals of a game. It's just, I find it fascinating. Alright. This, if I remember correctly, is the gigantic mini turret room, where you get to do the most awesome fling of all time. And so you notice how they start you off. You can see this, holy crap, this gigantic room. I forgot how big this is. You can see this gigantic room, and like you're somewhere where you're just sort of saying, okay, I can sort of see around everywhere, and I can't really get anywhere. And then you say, okay, so I can sort of portal out of here. And then as soon as you get out of here, everything opens up, and you get the music and everything, and you have to think really quickly. And players will quite probably die doing this the first time. Now, you'll also notice that these alcoves that the turrets are in are set up so that, for the most part, you are out of range of all the other turrets while you're in here. So you can one by one jump from alcove to alcove and take them out. You'll occasionally be in one that another turret can see. Like, I could have sworn this guy should be able to see me, but whatever. But for the most part, you can just go from one to the other and take them out like that. Apparently this, a sort of turret section kind of similar to this, although a bit more active, was the original idea for the boss fight, or the sort of finale for the game. Which I find interesting. I'm sure glad they went with the GLaDOS thing, because that's more satisfying to beat the entity that has been torturing you all this time. And I believe the final thing that you need to get out of here doesn't open up until you've killed all the turrets. But I could be wrong on that account. You'll notice here that, of course, the lasers are very useful in being able to see where the turrets are. Because it's very difficult to see where they are in these alcoves. But because of the lasers, which were already established before, you can very clearly see which ones are remaining and where they are. Actually, I think this is set up so that you could just start flinging right away. You just get annihilated by the turrets if you tried. Alright, and so now you get to do the most awesome fling of all time. I guess they just realized that flinging is really, really fun. Might as well let them do some nice big ones. So, let's do this. And you basically just need to get up there. But again, this thing opens up, and we've seen this open up before. We've seen it, saw it in Test Chamber 18. We saw it actually fairly recently, and we know what to do. That is a cue to fling, and we're going to actually end up having to fling out of there in order to place something there, and then fling out of there. Let's do this. And when I say fling, of course, naturally it just means double fling. Like that. It's so much fun. And then if you're bored, once you get up to the catwalk, you can actually just jump off the catwalk and fling yourself from there. That's a lot of fun, but I don't think I'll do that. Okay, this one also catches you by surprise. And this one has a very interesting solution. That. You have to, not only do you have to, like, it was one of the few times in the game where you actually have to think quickly. Once you're here, you can't, I mean, you can try and, like, hide behind these pipes. Actually, that's probably why these pipes are here, so you can hide behind them if you really need to. But you have very little time and it catches you off guard. There is no hint that that is going to happen here. And the normal solution, like, you just have to think quickly and realize that if you just put a portal underneath them, it'll work. Now, you're probably used to putting one in the wall and one underneath them, and doing that, but here you have to realize you can just put them both underneath and they'll sort of fling between each other and it'll work. Or you can just do one there, one there. That works as well. But you need to put them under their feet and drop them down in order to get them, because you're not going to be able to run up to them and take them down. Anyways, I find that interesting, and I find this here interesting. This one also took me a long time to figure out, just because it's a different thing that you can do with portals. I don't know if we've actually done this. We might have done this before. Just go watch the previous videos. If we have done it, I've mentioned it. But flinging yourself upwards out of the ground, which is what you have to do here in order to get out. It's pretty disorienting coming out of the ground like this, but that's what you need to do. I placed orange. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I have the little icon in the middle. I talked about that. Why don't I hit it? And you use that to get height, and then get out like that. So I mean, that's really a really interesting use of portals, because it involves getting somewhere using portals that you can't get to by just placing a portal there. You have to use a portal in a weird way to launch yourself there, instead of being able to, as you normally can, just place a portal wherever you want to go and go there. You can't see anywhere up here to place a portal. So you have to use portals in a way that moves you without just directly portaling to that place. I just find that's a very interesting use, and it's exploring all the things that you can do with the game mechanics, and they do that very well in this game. And here's the catwalk I talked about. You can sort of look down, and it's a long way down, and it's really fun to jump down there. But I don't want to redo this, so you can do that on your own time. Oh, I think we're actually getting close to GLaDOS. I find it interesting that this floor is portalable, because for one, I don't believe there's another floor that's sort of orange and yellow like this, that I don't think you ever need to put a portal on it to actually solve a puzzle. And it's a different color palette than the walls. So I find it interesting that they decided to let it be portalable, because it sort of tugs away at the light gray as portalable instinct that's been drilled into you up until this point. There have been different variations of light gray, but it's always light gray is portalable. And the orange one that I mentioned, I think I reacted to earlier, sort of changes that. And I find it interesting that they did that. I'm not sure I would have done the same. Look at me, never having made a game, talking about what the designers of Portal should have done. I don't know why people listen to me. Anyways, that's GLaDOS. This looks pretty ominous, and it's very well set up. It's a very distinct section where you're not doing anything, because I don't know if I've talked about this before, but it's sort of you'll see this actually in a lot of media once you start looking for it. And I swear it's more than just confirmation bias. I think confirmation bias is the right word. Anyways, it's more than that. It's more than just bias. It is the calm before the storm effect. I don't know what the technical term is, but it comes back to contrast, basically. If you'll notice, like in a lot of songs, there'll be like something, and they'll build and build and build and build and build to sort of like the climax of the song, and then they'll cut everything out, and it'll be really silent with just vocals or just strings or just piano or something like that, and there'll be almost nothing there, and then they'll come in with the full climax of the song. It's because it creates contrast between that silent part right before the super climactic part and the climactic part. Whereas if you just build and build and build and build and build and then do the climactic part, there isn't as much contrast, and so it's not as effective. And that's sort of what they're doing on a very small scale here. And you'll see this in games, you'll see it in movies, you'll see it in music, you'll see it everywhere, basically. And that is, they do this, they have everything get really calm and quiet before a really climactic point in the game or movie or book or film or whatever, or music or whatever, in order to create contrast for that final climactic moment. And that's what they're doing here. There are no puzzles here. You're used to pretty densely packed puzzles. You're just walking. You're just walking through these sort of gray hallways that look really stark, and you got that view out there, and then you go through here, and it's just walking. It's more and more walking, walking, walking. It's the calm before the storm. And then you get to see GLaDOS, and she talks.
Well, you found me. Congratulations.
And apparently there's actually a story behind that red phone, that you're supposed to call it out if GLaDOS ever went rogue, and obviously it didn't work, probably because it doesn't actually have a cable attached to anything. But whatever. Anyways, so GLaDOS talks for a while, taunts you. I mean, this is from a story point of view important, because this is GLaDOS. You get to talk to her, or she gets to talk to you. You don't really get to say anything on the matter. And she has some really funny dialogue here. It's just hilarious. If you just sit around and wait for her to say stuff, it's really funny. And some of the stuff that the spheres say is absolutely hilarious as well. But You'll notice the incinerator that was in the companion cube level, and the turret. I'll go incinerate this. The turret that comes out out of the ground, out of there, eventually from a few minutes ago when we just did the turret stuff. So you've been trained on how to do all of this before. You're just putting it together to beat the boss, and it's just so damn well designed. And you'll see these things, so you can actually see. It's set up so that, again, you notice the direction that this is facing is set up so that if you stand right in front of the button, and the direction you would normally face to press this button, and you press the button, you will see that open. So you can see, alright, this is linked to that. And then it's just a matter of realizing you can use a portal to do that. And then the final boss, or the closest thing to a final boss fight, begins. I've taken my headphones off right now because GLaDOS is way too loud, and so she's distracting me from talking. Anyway, so all that stuff you've been trained on before, it's just a matter of putting it together in order to solve this. Or not solve this, in order to beat GLaDOS. Yes. You may have seen this as well, but there's some, you can look this up online, there are some interesting sort of images that suggest that GLaDOS might actually be based on a design of a woman hanging upside down with like bonded and with chains coming out of her. Did the designers actually mean to do that, or the artists actually mean to do that? I have no idea. If they didn't, it's still cool that it kind of looks like that. If they did, that is really, really genius and really, really creepy. if you don't see what I'm talking about, you can look it up online because it's kind of distinct, or it's not kind of distinct. It's somewhat distinct once you see it. So, anyways, there isn't really that much more to do. I'm gonna beat this for you. So I talked about having to redirect. I think you can actually get away without redirecting, but redirecting is the easiest way to do it. I talk about redirecting in order to get her to hit what you want her to hit, or what you want the turrets to hit, like that. And then you're just basically given three sort of, notice the turret goes away while you deal with this, so it's just an isolated puzzle. There's one here, there's one up there, and there's one floating in the air, and it's just three different puzzles, mini puzzles that you have to do in order to get the spheres. Where do I need to go? You can also use portals to travel really quickly, which is very useful. Oh, now the question is, I got rid of my portal up there. Can I do this? And the answer is yes. Excellent.
That's it.
You think you're doing some damage?
And rinse and repeat. I mean, I'm doing the same thing, so there isn't that much to talk about. You notice that this sort of cavey thing on all of those sides is set up to be lined up with hitting GLaDOS. Did I miss? I missed, didn't I? Yeah, the turret's still here. I missed. There we go. So this one I think goes way up, and you just have to double fling to get up there. And you'll notice this sort of weird path thing that they've made, so that you can actually sort of follow it and see where it is. Because if you didn't follow the sphere as it went up, it might be hard to sort of pick it out of the environment and see what you're supposed to do next. So that's there, so it creates a path, and you can actually sort of follow it and see, oh yeah, there's a sphere there, and I'm supposed to go get that. Oh, I guess this ground is not gray, and you need to portal on it. I guess, okay, and then that makes sense then, if they needed it for here for aesthetic purposes. I guess that makes sense, that they needed to train you that, okay, this sort of ground, you can actually portal through it. Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that before. Whoa. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Forgot to place the other portal. Oh, I see, I missed. I better not lose, that'd be embarrassing.
That thing you burned up isn't important.
And the final iteration of our assault on those.
When I said deadly neurotoxin, the deadly was an massive sarcasm quote. I could take a bath.
No, I missed. Oh, that's silly.
Honestly, it's not deadly at all.
To me.
You, on the other hand, are going to find its deadliness a lot less funny.
There we go. She's swinging back and forth, I see. And then this one's just sort of floating out in the air, and you have to get it just sort of by eyeballing a fling. There we go. Nope. Why do I keep doing that? I keep missing my portal placements. If you're looking for someone who's actually skilled at playing this game, you've come to the wrong place, if you didn't figure that out already. And this should be it. And with that, she is gone.
You're not even a full-time employee.
Where did your life go so long? Are you trying to escape?
You get to just, you're treated to this sort of climactic conclusion and the sort of visual feast of watching GLaDOS get torn to shreds and everything whirling around. Just sort of a mini reward for all your troubles. And sort of signaling that this is the end of the game and you have beaten the final boss of the game. And you get lifted up into white light and la la la. Probably some metaphor you can read into there or whatever. I'm not a literary guy that much, so I won't. And then you get this, and I think you're actually going to get dragged away because I have the post-update version of Portal. But anyways, this is really cool, and this here is really striking because it is the first time you've seen anything outside in the entire game. You have been in the test chamber, in test chambers. You've been in the outside the test chambers in the facility the whole time, but you have never been outside. So this is, You don't realize it until you see it, but that is incredibly striking. That seeing the outdoors, like it's weird. It reminds me of, there's actually a scene in Inception. If you haven't seen Inception, you're not going to miss much. Just skip to the end of the video. There's nothing. This is the only thing we're going to talk about, really. Good, you're gone. Okay, cool. In Inception, in the final scene when he meets back up with his kids, you don't see the faces of the kids throughout the entire movie until that very final scene. And I remember watching it in theaters, and it really struck me. I was like, wow, I explicitly noticed I haven't seen their faces until now. And so they're their backs to the camera, and then they turn and you see their faces for the first time. And you're like, whoa. Like, you don't realize that this thing has been missing, that this has been withheld from you this whole time, until they finally show what you've been missing, that you've never seen the kids' faces. And then once you see it, you realize how striking it is that you're seeing this thing. And they did it here as well. You've never been outside, and so they show you outdoors at the outside at the very end, and it's striking. You have never been outside in the game until this point, and I don't know, it really struck me. And then you get treated to, this is your treat for finishing the game. You get this absolutely hilarious thing, which I am actually going to skip, unfortunately, because we're at the end. We're done. Can I skip it? I don't know if they'll let me skip it. Will they? No, they won't. Oh. Well, I guess we'll have to watch it, and I'll just keep talking while GLaDOS sings. Ellen McCain, I believe it's McCain. No, it's McLean. I don't know, McCain or McLean. It's Ellen. Let's call her Ellen, because I'm totally on speaking terms with her. Ellen is, I believe, a professional opera singer, or was a professional opera singer, and is formally trained in everything. And so, getting her, the actual voice of GLaDOS, to do some sort of song is like a natural thing. It fits well with sort of the strange humor of the universe that they've put together here. It's Jonathan Coulton, I believe is his name, the guy who wrote the song. Just freaking brilliant. Anyways, I'll let this continue out to the end. It's some ASCII art and stuff. I believe Valve, I mean, I've obviously never worked at Valve, so I don't know for sure, but there's stuff going around, it seems known, or it's sort of casually known, that Valve tries, or at least tries to sort of maintain a flat hierarchical whatever structure amongst its employees. And so there's basically Gabe Newell, who owns the company, and all the employees, and that they've always reflected that. It's a tradition of Valve, as far as I know, that they show all the credits for the game just in alphabetical order by last name. They don't put director here, or owner here, or producer here, or writer, lead writer, whatever. They just list them in alphabetical order, because flat structure. Except for still live within the voices and stuff, because I think you actually legally have to attribute to voices when you did voices, but I could be wrong. And other people and stuff. Anyways, I found that interesting, and Valve, I don't know if you could pull that off in a publicly owned company, but because Valve is privately owned, they can apparently. And judging by the quality of the work that Valve puts out, and the amount of money that they make, and the good PR they have, and the great relations they have with the community, I would say that they're doing well with such a structure. I don't know if it actually is a contributing factor to their success, but they seem to be doing pretty well. Anyways, and you get treated to this as well. That's it. That is Portal, played through from the beginning to end with me rambling endlessly about game design. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I have a feeling that I'm probably going to be playing Braid next. I might decide on something else, and I might try a few shorter ones, because as you could tell, particularly towards the latter half of these videos, I started kind of running out of stuff to say, and I started getting really, really boring. So I'm probably going to try some shorter ones, because not every game, I don't think I'll be able to talk for the entire length of the playthrough for many games. Portals and Braid probably are anomalies in that sense. Anyways, you'll see those coming sometime in the near future. Anyways, that is that. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. Farewell, and portal on.